Get ready for Solomon's
Porch Podcast.
Hey, giving the glory to God. Yeah, you're hanging with Jason and Sean. Get ready for Solomon's
Porch.
Can it just be a book club?
Sorry.
You're not helping at all.
Identified as ladies' book club.
Yeah. They of their own volition. But no, I think the thing is, yes, though, there are guidelines set out for how to, structure a church, and obviously they are good guidelines, and there was a reason for them at the time. I am of the opinion with stuff like this, when I'm trying to decide how to act based on thought and theology and ideas, my perspective is I'm going to do the very best I can with the very best knowledge I have, with the very best prayer that I can do. And at the end of the day, I'm just going to pray there's a forgiving God, because I'm sure I did part of it wrong, but I did my best. And God's word literally says, seek me with all that you have, and what's left is covered by grace. That's not an excuse to not try.
Right.
Obviously, we have to give it our all. We have to really try to live up to what the Bible wants us to do. But at the end of the day, if maybe I make a church and one of my elders is doing something he's not supposed to do. Or maybe we don't have enough elders. Like maybe Timothy says, in order to function well, you need 5 elders for these 5 duties. Maybe I don't have that many. And maybe it's wrong to do so without that many. But if someone says, I need to meet with people, I need that community, then in my mind, it's, I'm not going to tell the guy no. I'm going to do the very best I can with the resources I have, and trust and have faith that God will fill in the blanks in his own special way, even where I fall short. Because then at the end of the day, I am even less able to say, look what we did, and I am more compelled to say, look what God did.
Amen. Gotcha. All
right.
Yeah, man. So
I didn't mean to close the book on that.
Oh, no.
Oh, that was good.
No, it was good. So I would be wary, because I think some people are like, well, if you follow, if you're looking at the Pauline epistles, this, that, and the other, then you're being legalistic. I would warn against that. I wouldn't say this being legalistic. Otherwise, forcing yourself to be covered by grace is also legalistic, in a way.
Yeah.
So it's just,
Is that like conforming by non-conformity?
sure. Yes.
Pretty sure that's that's a line in a Linkin Park song, I think.
It could be.
Anyway, I think there's a lot of things. We couldn't really cover it all in one section.
Yeah.
Definitely, there's so many things. Whether you got church government, you got theology, you got But I think the thing that frustrates me the most is seeing so many people leaving churches for really stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It's what is your requirement for a church,
right,
or whatever, to really plug in and make yourself a part of that? And I started to think about it. I was like, maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with the churches at all. Maybe it's just that person.
Yeah,
it is. It is typically their personal baggage. Every time that I've experienced that is the case.
Yeah.
And then they're going to take it out on somebody in particular in the church that somehow done them wrong, or some silly thing, and it's really over nothing because they were just looking for a way out.
Yeah.
And that's what that boils down to. And so they were going to leave. They were just looking for their out to leave.
Yeah. And I think the thing I don't understand is why somebody's continually going to all these churches. I don't know if they realize they're looking for a way out or excuse. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that to me screams God's not fitting in the mold they want him to fit in, so they're going to keep going to new places until he does.
Yeah.
They're going to wait until they find the God that they want. Dude, it was interesting when you texted me this topic. Obviously, very, very good topic to think on and consider, and how do we relate with other believers and that kind of thing. But as I was sitting there thinking about it, where I always come to at the end of this kind of discussion or this kind of conversation is this is not that important. Obviously, sometimes there are very legitimate reasons to leave a church. I mean, I left a church for nothing to do with the people. I moved. So it was time to go.
Right.
But so often we get caught up in arguments over stuff that at the end of the day doesn't affect what Jesus did. And, you might say, well, it affects how, I think about God, and that's all well and good. But if I'm going to spend my time on something, that if I'm going to spend my time on something in the church, I don't want to waste time arguing with other believers over something that really I could probably either discuss with them and grow in love. Because that's one distinction. If you leave a church in bad spirit, it doesn't grow in love. It doesn't grow in anything like that. So either discuss or say, you know what? We're not going to agree, and that's okay. Let's go talk to people who don't agree that Jesus died and rose from the dead instead of people that don't agree how old the earth is.
Right.
Like, what's our real goal here? Is our goal to convince all Christians to think exactly the same way, or to increase the amount of Christians on this planet?
And I think that's been the argument for non-denominational churches, because denominations have a tendency to be like, well, we're right and they're wrong.
Right.
We're Methodists, so we got it all figured out. But Free Baptists, they don't have a clue, or vice versa.
Right.
And the point is I remember the Third Day song, "Come Together," and that was really their point.
That was the Beatles.
Well, they did one too.
And Aerosmith, who did a horrible cover of Come Together.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, just the point is that hey, let's get past any of those petty differences, and let's pour in some of these resources together, and really affect change, because that is what we are ultimately called to do.
Yeah.
So when James tells us to take care of orphans and widows, that isn't just, okay, you Episcopalians, you're the only ones that can take care of them or something. No, it's all of us. So let's all band together and let's fix this issue. Yeah. And if we actually did that, then that's when we're seeing, a lot of these social issues that we depend on our government to be able to take care of, we wouldn't even need them to take care of, because we'd be taking care of them as a body of believers. Mm-hmm. But because we insist on being so separated and doing things, independently, we end up not doing anything at all.
Gotta keep them separated.
There's only a few of us that are doing anything. And you stole it from me last night. I totally used that last night. Anyway.
I think we got to not let pride get in the way. I think that's part of it too. Right. Our pride gets hurt.
That's a huge part of it.
Because someone says we're wrong, they disagree with us or whatever, and we're like, you know what? I ain't got to deal with that. I know I'm right, yada, yada, yada. And we let pride get in the way.
Well, and some of that's religion too. Some of that man-made religion garbage that we allow to get caught up in, that we have to wash feet every single week. That is, or that we have to wash them at all.
Do you want to wash my feet?
No. But,
okay.
Sam,
I have wonderfully white feet.
Yeah,
they're
soft,
early boy,
soft and creamy.
I think what I heard a pastor say one time, and this has stuck with me, vividly ever since then. We live in the South. There's a huge history of racial segregation, all kinds of divisiveness. I mean, I think Smithfield, the town over, for a long time had a sign out front of the town that said "Home of the KKK."
They did.
Yeah. Sunday is the single most segregated day.
It is.
Every week. Because we all separate and go our separate ways. But, if you look at it, don't we all agree on what's really important? The very core stuff. So why do we feel... I mean, this is just me. I mean, some people might say I'm a little too free and loose for some people. Liberal. Good word for it. But seriously, I mean...
Not in Smithfield, right? No.
But the idea is, why is that what we spend our time focusing on? Why is it the differences between us? I have when I used to live up in Massachusetts, and my family had another family that we were close friends with. They went to be missionaries in Turkey, and have been for like 20 years. And every once in a while, they come back to the States, and then one of them was just here, and we were talking to him, and he was super excited telling us about this ministry that isn't associated with the church necessarily, but it's Christian people coming together with Muslim people in, I think, out in California, because they have tons of support for the Hispanic people, the African American people, but there's no support for Muslims. And he was like, I just go and talk to them. I don't talk about my belief of how old the earth is or who Jesus was, because that's a point of disagreement between Muslims and Christians. We just talk to them and are friends to them and treat them like humans. Because a lot of times, at least in conversations I've had with people, it's almost like we dehumanize people who disagree with us.
Or demonize.
Or demonize, yeah, absolutely. Like those horrible Catholics. They make you tell a priest what you did wrong. Sure,
us
I
and
might.
them.
That's what it is. It's very much us and them, or us versus them.
Yeah.
When I personally think it should be us and them.
Us for them.
Yeah, us for them. Why do the differences have to separate us?
Right.
Why can't we all have the same goal? Yes, different ways of doing it, but isn't the point to bring people to Jesus, man? Like, at the end of the day, if you, like the word says, if you believe and you confess that Jesus is Lord and you truly trust him and you try to follow his commandments and you live in the light of grace, then you make it in, quote unquote, to put it in a interesting way. But someone out there who's never heard the word, who, or maybe has and doesn't like it, they're not making it in. And do I really care what another Christian believes when, if they are truly a Christian and I trust what they say, they're probably going to make it in? Wouldn't I rather spend my time with the person who's really at risk? How, like I heard it said, Penn Jillette of Penn and Teller, the magicians, he talked about a guy who came up, gave him a Bible, was super, super, super nice. Penn Jillette's an atheist.
Right.
And in this video, he goes, how much, if you truly believe this, how much do you have to hate someone not to tell them? How much do you have to hate someone to doom them, basically? Because we're wasting our time arguing with other Christians. I'm sorry, this is a huge soapbox of mine.
Oh, no,
I
you're good. You're
texted
good.
Jason
You're
about this. He texted me the topic, and I was like, no way. This is one of my favorite topics. Because I just get frustrated, man. I want to go love people for Jesus.
Well, I think about it. It's like, if there's a missions thing, do we really, like, we have a mission, somebody that comes and says, hey, we got a mission, like our church has a church in Belize. It's like a campus over there, and it's a mission. It's like, okay, what's your core foundational beliefs? Like, what's your eschatology? What's your Christology? What's your this, that, and the other? Your beliefs of X, Y, Z. Okay, once you meet all those, then I'll send you some resources to help. It's like, how much do we require of them, knowing that, hey, look, I love Jesus. We're trying to bring people to Christ. Like, if that's it, usually with missions, we don't necessarily ask all the other in-house stuff that we make a bit. I'm not saying that these things aren't important, because anything that was important to Christ should be important to us. It shouldn't necessarily be a point of division, though. I've said before, like, to me, end times isn't a huge thing. It is important to God, so it should be important to me.
Yeah.
But not to the extent where it's like, if you don't believe in post-trib or mid-trib or pre-trib, then I can't help you do the work of Christ overseas or even here.
Right.
And I think that's the thing where we get so caught up in stuff like that. And, I heard there was a situation one time where there were a couple of older people and they got into huge battles between each other about the end times. And I'm like, is that really a huge
Well, and everybody
thing?
got it wrong anyway. It's 7/8 trib.
It is.
Then what about the small churches in China that are underneath their houses with half of the book of John? Yeah. Are they wrong because they don't have Timothy?
Right.
Like, they're not following these things because they don't know. But am I going to go over there and say you're not saved because these people are risking their lives for the love of God and baptizing each other in bathtubs?
Right.
No.
Right.
Obviously not.
You just need a drop of water.
Yeah, just a little bit.
The difference between
Dip the baby.
The difference between the